review video of German Bundesliga 1, match day 1 on Monday, 19th of August, as you can witness up there. So I did do this preview more or less for the season, for the whole campaign, and some general remarks about it. And now we've seen the first matches, and of course I'm pleased. You may spot the results already up there, or you may remember from Friday or maybe Saturday I recorded this, and that it was pretty pleasant and things were going well. It's not, for me, it's not, of course the work is not finished as soon as, even if good results are coming in, it's the same procedure I'm going through. I enter all the stats, I enter the results, I update all my tables, rankings, and so on, which happens automatically, but I have to sort the tables and quite a few things around it. So it's always work. It's all weekend, and of course in the end I have to. I mean, this is not the part of work that I was referring to when I said it's not finished my job. It's done, but I have to compare, or I have to check whether or not the bets had been good ones. And of course we can go through the games anyway. I would do that and maybe compare, I mean in every single game, maybe compare of my predictions with the stats and how this translated into goals they should have scored, but also some general statements about it. I was talking about the goals, for example, the total goals, and I said market was a bit low. I expected 30.22 goals. There should have been 30.09, which means to me, I mean, first of all, I'm close enough anyway, but it also is telling me, of course, my stats, my whole system is working all right. But also the more or less the trend continues from last season, and also I was saying the new system saw little more goals compared to the old one, and this was actually fulfilled, and not just in the ones I predicted and the ones that should have been, but also in the ones that have been scored, because there had been 30 goals, so I couldn't be any closer. Where I could have been closer or may have been closer is in the distribution of the goals, but there I was also making kind of a statement, and look at that. I mean, home sides actually even created a little more chances than I expected, while away sides created a little less, but it turned out that the away sides came out, well, clearly better. They scored 2 more than they should, while home sides were missing about 2. So this is another trend that is continuing. And of course, my system is sensible for this kind of, it's updating all the parameters. So usually it should reflect all this. What market does is usually it comes back with the old home advantage. Well, I mean, I may have mentioned it on Saturday or in all the other leagues, Germany, Bundesliga 2 and so on. I've done the same thing. That away sides are getting better results. In some sense than they should, in some sense than they expected, in some sense compared to how well they used to do in the past. And there are a couple of reasons for that. I mean, we have this VAR. And the video assistant referee, for me, does nothing but disallow goals. It's and you saw that in England. I've actually brought that up, or maybe you didn't, but that was the only thing I was bringing up here, maybe to get some comparison, and how they were shocked. And there was another goal disallowed here. They are celebrating still because Gabriel Jesus scored a goal. and it was disallowed. And what they say here about it is I mean, it was a 3-2 for Man City and was fully deserved. I mean, they were clearly on top in this whole game, and Tottenham just had these two more or less opportunities when they instantly scored goals, and they had a head full, Man City, like 22 shots or something like that, and Tottenham 5, something like that. So it was one of the biggest superiorities I ever met here. So it was well deserved anyway, and see them all celebrating. And you can say, well, they are Man City supporters, but no Tottenham player actually intervened. He intervened or said something to the referee, or they said handball. He should disallow it. There may be a couple of reasons for that, but why they didn't? I mean, the defenders, they are allowed to do a lot more things like that. But there was no suspicion at all. I mean, neither Tottenham nor anyone. And then they say, okay, Laporte, he touched the ball with his hand. But when you see how many penalty claims had been turned down and the referee doesn't react, VAR doesn't react, and they say it was not a clear-cut bad decision. I'm talking a bit too much about this because that's not subject here. But anyway, this was disallowing a goal, and there are many such situations when VAR intervenes for some obscure reason to disallow a goal, and if you look at it that way, it's usually the home side that are attacking are going forward. So it happens more often, of course, that there is an opportunity to intervene and say this goal was not correct, so the goal does not stand. And when the home side attacks, because they are doing it more often. So in that sense, it hampers. It's more to the worse for the home sides, the VAR interventions in general, because they disallow goals, and that's the home sides. But it's also that any rule, as I'm keeping to state here, they are again directed against the attackers, because the strikers, they are not allowed to do anything or push or something like that. They instantly, it's the strikers. That's like the handball from this Laporte, when he did like that, and maybe the ball touched there, I don't know. But it did touch its arm. They are not doubting that. But how many defenders touched the ball with hands and it was turned down? And it's the same in tackling. Because if a striker does something like that with his body against the body, or raises his arm, or the defender goes down, this is a striker's offense. So it's a foul. But if the defenders do the same thing, it's never a penalty. They say, oh, that's not enough for a penalty. So, and that's obviously the reason why, I mean, if all those things go against the strikers, they have a harder time scoring, because defenders are allowed to do many more things, like handling the ball. And they always say, I mean, I saw one like that when they build a wall, when there's a direct free kick, and then all that the striker, the shot taker, all that he said was, he was talking to the referee and he said, please watch out. I mean, they are doing whatever they like with their arms, and he just said, I mean, I'm not saying anything, but please watch out. I mean, the wall is just 2 yards wider than it used to be. I mean, it's everywhere, these arms. I mean, they are everywhere, and it's always correct. It's never a penalty. Although they have given such penalties, but it's just a wider wall, and as a striker, you would like to see the goal too. And if these arms, they are everywhere, and you don't even see the goal, and then you think, well, I would rather get by these arms and not touch them, even if I may get a penalty. I would rather score a goal from here. And if you can't even see the goal, or you see all kind of obstacles in the way, you think, well, I need to shoot a bit higher or something like that, which you wouldn't do if you knew this was disallowed, which it isn't. I mean, so it's all those things, and it's happening more and more against the attacking side, and this is most commonly the home side, because they are in an even game, or if the teams are even, it's still this small home advantage. So and the supporters, they ask their team to go forward. If any coach, I mean, we saw it in the World Cup, and I'm coming back to that. We saw it in the World Cup that defending is easier, and they would all like to, okay, you are the favorite, okay, you can have the ball, go ahead and play, and we just sit back and wait. And as soon as we have the ball, and this is like, what is it? It's not, it's overcommitted. It's, yeah, they overcommitted, so to say. I mean, they tried to score a goal. Okay, we got the ball. What are we supposed to do? I mean, pass backwards and so on. That's what the good teams do nowadays. They just wait. They just wait. Look at Barcelona. They've done that for 10 years or 20 years already. Now, okay, we wait, and we try to push you back somehow and just keep the ball. And somehow the idea will come somewhere, maybe, or the gap will open. But if you just attack and you say, okay, how do I attack? Get players forward. No one does it anymore. It's not wise to do so. But if the supporters still ask you to do so, they are still trying. And that's why it's better and it's easier to defend these days. The rules are not on your side. The application of the rules is not on your side. The VAR is not on your side. And the whole game is not going this way. So they still have to do it, what people ask them to do. And they still say, well, we try to decide the games on our own. We try to win the games, not to wait for the opponent to lose the game. We try to win the game actively. And you can't do that anymore. It's the wrong approach, more or less. And that's why home sides are getting into more and more trouble. So, I mean, I may have talked a bit too much about that, but excuse me for that. But still, I would like to make my point here, and I'm seeing that every day, and it really hurts, because what you would like to see is good football. What is good football? Football is attacking football. Do something active with the ball. See a striker getting by the defenders and not being brought down. When you see a good dribbling, something like that, someone, a player going around defenders like Messi does, for example, I mean, what would you say? I mean, that's great, right? But what is his art? His real art is to avoid being brought down, because there are many strikers that can do good tricks or can do. But what happens if they get by? They are being brought down, and that's so annoying. And then why wouldn't they stop that? I mean, you can easily do that, because all you need to do is apply the rules. And say, if the player is brought down in the area, that's a penalty. And they are not doing that. They say, okay, was it a clear cut? Very, very. And they have to be very, very cautious about that. Not to give a penalty when there was just a marginal foul. And the defenders, they would not reward them for that. What they would do is, all they would do is push it to the limits. I mean, they noticed this had not been a fault, so maybe I can try a bit harsher next time. And it's not a fault. Okay, no, this was not a handball. Okay, I try with both arms next time. Maybe what he says then. See what he says then. They got all kind of excuses for all those defenders disobeying the rules and not giving a penalty, or not awarding a penalty for the attacking side. It was just help everybody if they would just apply this very simple rule, give a penalty and flag down, and not always the offside flag, because that hurts the most. And then they raise their flag, and then the commentator said, "Oh, this one is very close. I'm not sure about And next one he said, oh, this was very, very close. Oh, yeah, I'm not sure at all. It's always close, so if you take down the arm instead of raising it. When in doubt, favor the strikers. But they wouldn't need to favor them, they just needed to be honest about it. I mean, just to be just, fair, even, pari. Okay, about the games, I mean, as I said here, so here it showed again, so they may have produced more chances, but those chances are most likely not of the size. This problem is being reflected slowly but surely. It goes into the data, and they will update, and they will adjust that. If it didn't happen yet, it did happen. You don't see it here. If this is still maybe a trend, I checked that. Actually, I can show you. Here I've done some kind of stats on that. I mean, we can just take the totals or we can take the averages. This chart is not perfect. But what I did here was expecting, home expecting in the new system, right? This was for all the leagues I'm covering that played so far, a couple of leagues. And 230 I expected, and they scored 228. This is fine. I mean, they didn't fully convert their chances, but this is perfect. I mean, 228, and this is just marginal. But what the away sides did once again, which is not reflected, and I have to say, I mean, maybe I still bent a bit to market, because market is still insisting on this home advantage, which is, I'm saying that all the time, that the home advantage is lower. But anyway, they scored 218 instead of this. I mean, here you can still say, okay, that's statistical, and it's early season, so home sides are not that used to their, and they have to, well, yeah, I mean, it's also playing at home early on when your team, they are usually new players in and so on. So maybe you favor a bit to play on the road, and I kept saying that too. But this is a bit too much. I mean, this is obviously a bit too much. 32 goals. And here is actually what they should have scored, which says, okay, home sides created even more than I thought, and even more. This, I mean, 13 goals. It may be remarkable already, notable. It's a bit that's missing there. So this means maybe partly for the VAR. I mean, if you say, well, I saw 8 goals disallowed that would have stood earlier on, then it's 236 already, right? So that could be this effect. Away sides also created a little more, but not as much as they scored. So there's a much bigger margin here, right? This is how many they should have scored, right? And here is in the old system what I expected. So the old system is, yeah, it's very close here as well. It's a bit lower, so that's fine. This figure, it's just fine. But the away figure is about the same here. But here it's much bigger. So, and here I don't have the value that it should, because it's just the old system is just working on the goals. Anyway, the away sides are doing well. I had similar stats already last season, and maybe it settles a bit later on. So that's maybe why I thought, okay, maybe do not overreact to that. And I mean, we obviously had Bayern and Dortmund at home. With a 7-3 total, it's still okay for these two, but obviously Bayern did not win, while they were much better and close to as much better as I thought, but even a bit more. I mean, this was very, very, very irregular, their superiority. But if you see that first Hertha goal, you can't say anything. It's nothing to do with home, away or VAR. It's just a deflected shot. And I mean, it happens. But they created as much as I thought. They scored 2 goals, which was more than one too many. They were just lucky. It's nothing else. Here in this one, I was on Werder. We had Werder, or I proposed it, and I was pretty right about it. It was plenty of chances. also for Düsseldorf, but Werder clearly on top. And when they say, I mean, you saw that all those this goalkeeper, what he kept out there, this American guy, Zach something, I can't remember his name now, Zach, I don't know. Anyway, he stopped all those shots, and so he was man of the match. And well, that tells almost the whole story. But Düsseldorf done a good job. I mean, yeah, you need to be lucky a bit, and they had been, they needed a bit more luck than I expected. They've done okay, as they created some chances on their own, which is also a consequence somehow of being ahead and Werder opening up. And here it was close to what I expected. Freiburg were a bit better, as I said. I didn't propose that. I mean, I was talking about it and said it's close to, but I don't want to. It was close enough. It wasn't over, although those chances, the goals, they came very late on. So I was very lucky with it over here. And Werder, I was good with the over. The side was a good one. Here I'm taking down the quality as well. So was it a good bet? Werder was a good bet. I mean, I can't doubt that when they were 1.5 goals, almost better. And the Werder over was a good one, obviously, because there had been so many chances. And the Bayern over was a good one, although you didn't see that because that was posted on Saturday. But I still, I've done that. I told you I was a bit ill, so I've written down all this before on Friday. I mean, I've done it on Thursday already. Okay. So you can mistrust that one, but it's fine. I was happy. It wasn't over. Everything fine. So that was a good one. Freiburg Mainz was a good over, although the goal... Oh, had been 2.7... No, that's Leverkusen, sorry. We had been through that already. That's 3.65. That's very good. The goals that should have been. And although they were late, they were all of them in the game. I mean, it was a good over and was lucky to still win it in the end. Also, Dortmund was the bad one. Was a bad over, which is a bit curious, of course, because Dortmund, I mean, they had so many shots and it was just ridiculous in the first half. When they had 16-2 shots, I think, something like that, and they wouldn't score the goal. There they should have scored the goal, and then let's see what happens in the second half. But as Augsburg held on and were lucky at that point, and then it was just 2-1 after the break. Anyway, in the second half, it was in the end was also like 22-5 or something like that. So Dortmund, but then they all of a sudden they scored all the goals. So I mean, I have to count it as a bad one. This over, because just 3.45 is not enough for an over 3. Well, I could check that as you are used to here. I enter this number here, this figure, 3.45. You see it up there, 3.25 over, that's 1.97 and 1.93, so it was a bad one. I needed 1.97, right, as a true price, and it was as a price. And this was not the price we were getting, so I leave it as a bad one. And Wolfsburg, Köln, I mean, I was trying to talk about the games. Werder were much superior, and Düsseldorf, yeah, they were lucky, but it was still a good job they've done. Freiburg were the slightly better side, but you have to, I mean, all the voices said afterwards they should have had a draw. Of course it was because it was a draw until late on, and well, still Freiburg were this tiny little bit better, which is said here, but I would accept very well if it were a draw, because Mainz were just good. I mean, it was as I expected, so I can't say it. They should have won the point, but they held on. They created their chances. They had enough of them, so it could have been a draw as well. If you remember, 0.5 goals are needed to get a deserved win, or to deserve one, which Freiburg did not quite have in the end. And Leverkusen, Paderborn actually appeared to be a very, very exciting and open game. I wouldn't take that back, but when it comes down to shots and corners, crosses, and what we count, it's it has not been this amazing lot. I mean, this looked like a very open game. And Paderborn, I was talking about them on Saturday. Of course, I expect them to just go with the same game approach as they've done in the Bundesliga 2 when they won promotion, and they came from Bundesliga 3, one league below, and they took that up there already with this Baumgart coach, who just went forward. I mean, and they they went up all the way and from the start, and they didn't change their approach at all. It was an excellent effort, and they were a lot better than expected. But still, they did not create these many chances according to this. But if you see many of these, when they went forward and they were trying to create this huge chance of score a goal, and maybe it did not come down to a shot, so it was nothing to be recorded there, which happened quite often for both sides, actually. I would say. I mean, whenever I saw the conference, it's called. So when they show all the games at the same time and they switch from ground to ground, and whenever there was tuned in this game, it looked like there's going to be a goal. How can you go away from here, right? There's going to be a goal, and the goals had been there. 5 goals are a lot, but it always felt like there's going to be a goal to come. But as I said, you can't. I mean, there may be different stats I'm going to use in the future, maybe with these dangerous attacks and so on, as I explained already at some point. But I'm not doing this now. Maybe that would give an answer to that. But otherwise, I have to rely on the stats I'm getting, which are pretty helpful. And so Paderborn may have won something here. It was an excellent, very outstanding effort, and still it was a deserved win because Leverkusen have not done anything wrong. I mean, if Bosch says after the game during a season you play 3 or 4 bad games, and if you still win them, well, he won one of them now, but if you still win them, you can be very happy. But it's not really true that they were bad. It was just that Paderborn were exceptionally good. But that was the approach I was expecting. So, and they've done right this, and they also surprised a bit. It's the big question would be: could they do that every week, or will they go on with this approach? I think they will, but as soon as they should reach bottom of the table, other people will make their claim and talk about, they have to change something. Dortmund, I've talked about this one already. They were a much superior side. They should have scored their goals in the first half. It was started with a goal here, and the goal is there. Augsburg to open the scoring with a goal after 1 minute, but Dortmund after 3 came right back in with Alcacer. But anyway, in Wolfsburg, Köln, we were on the over, but not the side. I think I actually had the side here, which was not a good bet. I mean, you see that here. Köln, actually, they fully leveled the game, and was what commentary said, so they were pretty right. I mean, usually the coaches' voices tell me a better story than the commentary. But here, maybe some credits to Köln because they won promotion or something like that. But anyway, here he said as well, Köln are not the worst team. So that was very right. It was an even game. And yeah, so unlucky for Köln in some sense. Gladbach, Schalke, in the end, if you see those stats, and that was also what coach, what's the name of the coach here now? I don't know, but I heard him after the game. Well, anyway, he was not unhappy with how his team played. Although here the commentary was pretty different, sounded a bit different. It was the thing, and I was talking about, if anything, we should take Gladbach. I haven't done so for the derby, and yeah, Schalke, I mean, it looked okay what they did, but the stats saw it a bit differently, and I will, of course, accept that. But anyway, I can, when I see 90 minutes, I can, of course, adjust this. But Gladbach were the better side. I would say that looks closer than this, right? That was how somehow how the game. But in the end, it was just Gladbach that should have scored the goal, I would say, right? There were enough attempts and things like that. In this one, it was a bit disappointing because, well, actually, it started with a goal right away, which you somehow appreciate. And Hoffenheim you would expect anyway to go forward all the way, and which they've done. They didn't play so exceptionally well. What I would say Frankfurt did well, but it was a bit influenced by this early goal somehow. I mean, I would say Hoffenheim were forced to go forward after that goal, which they may have done anyway. But Frankfurt made use of that, as I explained in the earlier on in this video when I was talking about which side is making the play. And Hoffenheim were forced to, and Frankfurt, they had more of it. They had more chances. They've done a good job, but it was a bit disappointing. That was 1-0 all the time, and you thought, well, somehow it's a bit unfair. Why are they winning already, right? Because it helped them. It just helped them. Should have been an even score. Here you will be very surprised, and everyone would be, although Urs Fischer, the coach from Union, said afterwards, well, I saw the stats were not so clear. Of course, he would not argue at all after 0-4, which I wouldn't either. I would say Leipzig deserved this win, which is, you shouldn't doubt really, although you see these stats. But whenever I saw, I just saw an inspired Union side. This is, it's not upside down or something like that. It's just Leipzig were clever. They scored an early goal, scored a second. Okay, you can say well done. It's everything fine. But it was just, I saw an inspired Union. I like the way they played. If it's 0-2, you can say, well, why are you trying? What are you hoping for? But they just went forward. They just played football. And if you hear those spectators, they didn't support their team from the start for this Leipzig trouble, RB, and they don't like this Red Bull and some things like that. So, but anyway, they didn't support them, but until the 0-1. Or they started after 15 minutes, and after 17 minutes the first goal came. But it was just impressive because they didn't care for the scoreline. They just went on supporting them after these 15 minutes, and that was just impressive. And this, I think, it's got something to do with how they play, and they did play well. So it's 0-4, and no one talks about why do you so many goals? How do you recover from that? There's nothing to recover from. It happens. You will lose games. If you won promotion, and 0-4 is no more costly than 0-1 or 1-2 or something like that. So it's just 0 points. And you may have had 1 or 3, but you didn't. Anyway, I'm just saying they did play well. That's what I saw. And the game may have been decided. Or Leipzig even a bit arrogant, I wouldn't say so, but it appeared to me they thought, well, you can attack, you won't score a goal or something like that. But they created some chances. So getting back to this, the other over in Wolfsburg was not a good one, because Wolfsburg did not get their full amount of chances, while Köln got a little more, but it's just 0.3. I could enter this one as well, but it's 2.75 and 2.88. That's never gonna be enough, even with the price even more if the price is below 2.0. But it's still it's +4, so to say. On the quality, it's 6.2. You can see that here. I didn't do that proper format here, but it's 6 good ones, 2 bad ones, and it's 4.65. And I've done the same for the Bundesliga 2, which had been 4.2, but 4.28. So we have a good start to the season. That's all I can say. So yeah, that's it, more or less. So thanks a lot. I would say, I mean, if you like it, subscribe in the first place. Like, you can do, share it, of course, very welcome, and comment on it. I got some comments, but I would be happy. I mean, if you would tell me, of course, also what you would like to hear or know, and also share your own experiences with me. Okay, thanks a lot.